Today we're going to be doing Photoshop assignment 6. So once again, if you go to the handout folder, go to JSerreta handout, grade 10 photography, section C Photoshop, and assignment 6, you will see a photo that we are going to be using. Okay, so once again, this is the photo we're going to be using to do this comic effect tutorial. Now, once again, feel free to use any photograph that you have taken yourself this semester. Now, hopefully by now you are in the process of knowing that you should duplicate your layers before modifying. Okay, so we're going to work with this layer 1 copy. This will be my photo. Okay, the first step in creating a comic effect is to desaturate the image. And the way you're going to do that is by going to Image, Adjustments, and Desaturate. That will remove the color from the photograph. Now, the next thing we are going to do is adjust something called the levels to make this look even more like a comic character. The way you do that is under Image, Adjust, and this is the same place where we did the desaturate. This is where we adjust brightness, contrast, and where we did the color balance. So here is something called levels. Now when we pull that up, we get a histogram which shows the range of colors that are in this photograph. Now you'll notice that by adjusting these sliders, we can change the way this photograph looks. And what we're going to do is pull these sliders in close together to further wash out the colors and make this look as though it has been sketched. And then click OK. Now everybody's is going to be slightly different, and that's okay. So we now have our sketch for the photo. What we now need to do is make it look even more like it has been sketched. And to do that, we're going to create a brand new layer, and we're going to call this layer Rain 1. And in this layer, we are going to fill it with gray by going to Edit, Fill, and we are going to use this 50% gray. Click OK, and it has now filled that layer with gray. Now we're going to add a couple of filters to this to make it look like rain. The first filter we're going to add to it is something called noise. So we're going to add noise to it. Go to Add Noise, and it shows a preview here. Now I'm not sure if this is going to be checked off or not for you, but please ensure that you have checked off monochromatic and it's set to Gaussian, and crank this all the way up to 400%, okay? So 400% Gaussian and monochromatic, because we don't want it to be rainbow in color, we want it just to stay black and white. Then click OK. Now the second filter we're going to add is something called blur. We're going to go to blur, and there's a whole bunch of different options we have. We're going to do something called a motion blur. Okay, and again, I'm not sure what yours is going to be set to. It remembers the previous settings. So I want you to set the angle to 90, the distance to 999 pixels. Click OK. You should get something that looks like this. Okay? Just move this out of the way. Now, that is our rain layer. Now, obviously, it's blocking the view of the photo underneath, and we'll deal with that in a second. But what we need to do is, most rain doesn't fall straight up and down. So I'm going to expand the size of this window so I can see this a little bit better. And what we're going to do is go to Edit, Transform, and we are going to skew this. Okay? Now the way skew works is I can grab a corner and pull it out. So I'll do that. And I will pull the bottom one out as well. So now the rain is angled. And when I'm happy with my rain, I can press enter to complete the transformation, and now I can worry about adjusting the way this rain layer looks. And the first thing we're going to do is we are going to change the layer blending mode from normal to something called vivid light. Now as soon as we do that, it completely disappears again. So what we need to do is we are going to go to image, adjust, and we're going to adjust the levels on this again. So here's the histogram. Now what I'm going to do is grab the sliders on the left and the right and bring them in, and you can see that lines start to appear. Okay? So again, this is going to be to your own personal preference, but I would suggest not too many dark lines. And do the same with the lighter colored lines, okay? So add some of those to give it kind of that sketched effect. When you're happy with it, click OK. Now, this next step I'm going to go through a little bit faster because what it really asks us to do is to create a second rain layer. So this will be rain 2. Okay, it's always rainy here in the classroom. What we're going to do is go to, once again, Edit, Fill. We're going to fill this with 50% gray. We are going to add the noise filter. Settings have all stayed the same. We're going to add the blur filter, motion blur. Settings stay the same. And we are going to skew this again. So transform, skew. And this time maybe I'll be a little bit of a different skew, so a little bit more skewed. And then again, change this to vivid light. And then adjust the levels. Okay, so this is very similar to what we just did. And click OK. So there we've created that sketched effect. But let's take this one step further. We're now going to add a new layer, and on this layer what we're going to do is take a paintbrush, make sure we reset the colors to black and white, and on this layer I am going to paint in the areas around this guy with black. Okay, so it doesn't have to be exact, but it will look something like this. You can see that I've filled in that corner. And now what I'm going to do is create something called a layer mask. And the way you create a layer mask is right down here. Okay? That's called a layer mask. Now when I click on that, notice that it adds this extra layer filled with white, and it's linked to this. Okay? What I'm now going to do is take my gradient tool, make sure this is set to black and white. Okay, these are set to the default, black and white. And making sure that not this layer, but the layer mask is selected, I am now going to draw a gradient. And it, again, you can adjust this as you see fit, but what I'm looking for is to get kind of this nice blended effect, okay? So maybe like that. That looks good. Okay? Now the final thing we have to do here is we are going to add a speech balloon for this character. And the way we're going to do that is take our elliptical marquee tool. Make sure you don't do it on this layer. Okay, that's a very common mistake. Create a brand new layer. draw a speech balloon here. And what we're now going to do is take our polygon lasso tool, and we're going to make sure that this is set to add to selection. And I'll click here, click here, click here, and then close off the selection. And you can see that it's added that to the selection. Now, Command and backspace to fill it with white. And I'm now done. Okay? Now I just need to add some text. So I will say, Photoshop is fun. I really hope I pass this course and learn something the process. Okay, and that's it. Now that that's done, go to File, Save As, save this as your last name, followed by an underscore, followed by Simon6 to your desktop. Click OK. And when you're done that, put it in the hand-in folder.